suppose this isn't the proper time to be That's fine.
Follow up with me later.
Yeah. Okay. Trustee representative. So I'm the representative, the appointed representative from the board to the Healthy Standards Advisory Committee, the provincial rep to BCPC on the bargaining team as an observer for the GPTA bargaining whenever that occurs. And I was assigned to the Victoria Parks Recreation and Community Services Advisory. That committee hasn't met for 4 or 5 years, and I'm sorry that it hasn't, because it would be a really interesting liaison, but they haven't replaced it with anything else. I discovered that in January. So let me just follow up with the Healthy Standards Advisory Committee. On April 19th, the agenda included the Healthy Families CC consultation process, and that was presented by Steve Michael, who is also co-chair of Success by Six. There were presentations on the Standard Strawberry Festival, and a really interesting presentation on open government and open data. It isn't actually all that applicable. I'm following up with the individual who made the presentation because it's something that I'm really interested in. And the Saanich Food Festival. There was a lot of interest in the Saanich Food Festival, and discussion included zoning issues and a variety of foods, including vegan food education and options, and you can guess where that came from. It was a good discussion. Updates came in from the Saanich Community Association Network and from the chair, who is Councillor Dean Murdoch, who talked about grants. No one attended from the Saanich Youth Council. They haven't attended so far in my recollection. An update from the Director of Parks and Recreation will be circulated later, and they discussed cycling in the Cedarville Art Gallery and Studio Space. That's a pretty exciting initiative. At the BCPC Representative Council on April 25th, I discovered that Pete Williams is he's the BCPC Director and the Gulf Islands Trustee. He's our BCPC liaison. Better late than never to find that out. At the Representative Council in Vancouver, one motion was submitted, and that was from School District 39 Vancouver. The motion was that in order to support the success of mediation, the BCPC set aside issues and proposals relating to teacher qualifications and suitability, control of professional development, and evaluation of teachers. That motion was defeated with 3 votes in favor and probably about 58 against, and I forget the total of representatives. My other liaison is Success by Six, and it hasn't met recently. Jenny Roy from the district leadership, she knows a lot more about Success by Six than I do. It's an umbrella organization. I think it is mostly funding, provides funding to various initiatives, of which there are many that they fund. So that is my representative report.
Thank you very much, Trustee McKee.
I didn't put my hand up earlier to be recognized here, and I'm not really a representative from the Canadian Cancer Society. However, I would really like to thank everybody tonight for these donations, and I'd just like to remind you that I have some daffodils here that show your support for their fundraising initiative. So sorry I didn't say that earlier in the trustee reports.
May I just follow up? How do we make the donations? Just to you?
You can write a check. Yes, I'll take the donations
Okay.
in, but
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Trustee Wilson. We're happy to hear supporting Trustee North.
Thank you. I'd like to make a request that at our June board meeting we have a report on Wi-Fi. It's one of our committees, and we haven't had a report this entire year. I'm thinking that we could just have an overview of technology initiatives in our district for this year, and the costing. I know our superintendent said that generally 2 schools a year are targeted for technology support. Sorry, 2 schools a year are identified for technology upgrades or technology. Anyway, I would just make a request that we have an update on our district in the Wi-Fi. We receive quite a few from Miss Jeskers, and I was reading it today, and it caused me to think that it would be, I think, beneficial to just have an update.
It's a good suggestion. I'm just wondering though if it should go through the committee so that we can have a discussion. The other thing is that George Amble was our chair of that committee. So Superintendent Bateman will be having to follow up, find out what's going on. Is that, that's possible, I know. So if it's done for ops, is that going to be, okay?
Absolutely, we'll bring something to us. I did want just to make sure that everybody knew that at the beginning of the school year, we asked Associate Superintendent Duncan to take on the role of chairing that committee. Unfortunately, without committee being held this year, they have yet to meet. But as soon as our labor strike has been settled, I fully expect that the committee will be resurrected with Associate Superintendent Duncan chairing the committee.
Thanks, and I believe in our district that we haven't had any more increases, but we'll hold off for that discussion. That meeting night at Trustee now.
It's interesting how he's got in here. I'm glad that he has been passionately interested in that topic. I understand that BCC PAC has a resolution from a school, from a parent group, to create a school that's a Wi-Fi free zone. So this is a really interesting and pertinent topic at this time.
Great, thanks. So we'll look forward to that at the operations meeting in June. Okay.
Well, I was on the agenda.
Yes.
I was just asking what exactly are we going to hear, because the committee hasn't met since the last time you reported to us. So are we just going to discuss the email from...
It's just an update, and the committee hasn't met since the previous board, and I think it's, in the interest of our new trustees to bring them up to speed on where we left off, because it is going to be dealt with again. I've had calls from the media about it, and I said it hasn't gone away, it's just on the back burner. So I think it's fair that it's brought forward just for a review and refresher for all of us. I see nothing wrong with that. Okay. Is there anything further under reports / requests from trustee representatives before we move on to new business of motions? Okay. We're now moving on to new business of motions, and our first is Estrada.
Thank you. So the motion is that the Board of Education of School District 61, Greater Victoria, write a letter to the Minister of Education requesting the appointment of a new mediator in an effort to fairly negotiate an agreement with our teachers. I feel that... do I have a second? Thank you.
Well, yeah, you do need a second.
Thank you. I feel that it is very important that we advocate for all our employee groups, however we can, to support them in terms of fair collective bargaining, to support that. And at this point, it's our teachers. And our teachers are trying to establish the same goal that we are, which is to restore funding. And so it's in the best interest of our children. Dr. Jago, who has been assigned and selected for this position as mediator, there's been a lot of questions about his suitability. We know that he has participated in a fundraising golf tournament for the Liberal Party, and that he's had no experience as a negotiator. That he did make a comment that he felt the task initially his reaction was that it was mission impossible. This doesn't engender the type of confidence that we would hope for from a mediator. And overall, there's the possibility of bias. So for that reason, I feel it's only fair to make this request to the ministry that they consider another individual as the mediator.
I see
Chair,
you,
point of order. I'm going to remove myself from this discussion.
Yes,
There's no
thank you.
conflict of interest.
Thank you. Trustee Lawrence Minka? You certainly
Sure, it's here.
So my amendment would be, right after requesting the appointment of a new mediator, common jointly agreed upon by all parties in an effort to fairly negotiate an agreement with our teachers.
Jointly agreed upon by all parties.
Yeah, jointly agreed upon by all parties.
What, point of clarification for this, would it, are you talking, who are all the parties, just so that we
Parties?
understand?
Well, it would be, of course, DCPC, right? And,
To both parties.
So should we not just specify those as
Sure.
you're saying, jointly agreed upon by DCPC and DCTF?
It's true. It's true.
So on the amendment, we're going to, you have a seconder, did I see, that was Trustee McNally? So we're going to discuss the amendment, which is the addition of after a new mediator, jointly agreed upon by DCPC and DCTF, and then further in an effort to fairly negotiate an agreement with our teachers. Are there any speakers to? Yes.
The legislation says that the government will appoint a mediator. The government will appoint a mediator. So by putting the second point in, it doesn't match the legislation. They've asked for people to suggest names from both sides, but the legislation doesn't match the motion.
I do still think that the motion is, in order it said a mediator. I know there's discussion prior to then getting to Trustee McNally in a moment, that the mediators that the BCTF were looking towards, and I do believe the government would have been agreeable to, were not available, is my understanding. And it could be corrected if I'm not. So that's the way it was left. They just said a mediator. So, and we did write the letter asking for an independent mediator supporting the teachers prior to. So just a bit of background to maybe help you. Trustee McNally?
So on the amendment, I'm in favor of the amendment, unless there's a hard copy of any legislation that would make it problematic. I think that's kind of not a discussion that we need to entertain right now. So it seems to follow a really good process, and I speak in favor of the amendment.
Trustee Horstman?
You know, there's not very much time left in the timeline that the government set out for this whole thing to come to an endpoint. And I think if a new mediator is appointed at this time, it's pretty much a given. It's like an acknowledgement that there's no way there will be an endpoint to the process before Christmas, for example. Because if a new mediator was appointed, they would have to start from scratch, and they would have a much longer timeline for the process. Whereas many of us were kind of hoping that the school year would start off with a contract in place. So I'm kind of of two minds with this motion. I mean, obviously, it's best if everybody agrees to who the mediator is. But my understanding was that process was in the beginning, before the mediator was appointed, and we weren't able to come to any sort of agreement. And a mediator was gone ahead and appointed. So, pardon me. It's a difficult question. And the question I was going to ask is, does the BCTF stop working on negotiations over the summer like the GBTA usually does? Or do they work over the summer months? Does anybody, I wonder if Mr. Cormier happens to know that.
Are you able to answer that?
I understand that the BCTF has lots of work in the summer, last summer. I don't know if that was the case.
Because the reason I ask that question is that if they don't, then this motion here, democratic though it makes the whole process even more unworkable than many of us think it currently is. So it's very difficult to know. In voting for the idea of extending the process, it's saying we don't mind extending it to the next school year. And frankly, I think it's crippled the school year. And it may be appropriate to use that particular word, I'm sorry. But so I really don't know how to vote for this. Normally, I'm strongly in favor of a mediator being agreed to by all parties. It's like a given that that's what makes mediation work. However, it's important that there be an end point. And I don't know how there could be an end point if we start all over again now. And even in starting all over again by suggesting, even if the suggestion were taken up, it's unlikely it would be acted on until well into June, which really makes this kind of a gesture more than a functional motion. So anyway, I don't quite know how to go on.
Trustee Nor, and then I have Trustee Lauren Gurita.
Thank you. I believe that the central intent of this motion is to have a mediator who is perceived to be unbiased, and this certainly isn't the case. So from the point of view of representing our employees, I think it's important that we speak clearly about the need for that. I don't believe our school year's been crippled. I think the teachers have worked extremely effectively in the classroom, and much has been accomplished. We don't know whether negotiations would occur during the summer, but I don't think for me, that's not a part of the consideration. This is around the fact that I don't believe that there will be any effective negotiation by the teachers with someone where they perceive that there is this bias. And so I'm not sure how functional this motion is, but I think we have also put forward motions to the ministry before where they haven't been that functional, in that we haven't got a response supporting our requests, but our requests nevertheless have been important and valuable and representing the needs of our students or the democratic process, which this one does. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Nor. Trustee Lauren Gurita.
Thank you. And I guess the reason why I would support this motion is I think that regardless with all of the disagreement that has happened at the beginning of the process has affected the outcome anyway. And who knows what's going to happen, whether or not we're still going to be faced with a lot of action in the fall if the teachers are not satisfied anyway, regardless of the outcome. So I think that it's much better for us to go back to the drawing board and start over with a unified process rather than a flawed process all the way through the system and pretending that it doesn't exist. It is there. Both parties are not agreeing. They didn't agree on the mediator. They didn't agree with the way that it came about. And so it's ultimately going to affect the outcome anyway regardless. So we could be looking at the same kind of issues or maybe more issues in the fall. So I'm in support of the motion, whether it's a timely thing or not. I just think that we really have to show that, having a jointly agreed upon mediator by both parties is really the best way to go.
Thank you. Trustee Ferris, please.
Well, I agree with the sentiment of the motion, and I agree that there should be a mediator who is acceptable to both parties in order for it to the mediation function effectively. But I won't be supporting the motion. My feeling about it is that this dispute is dragged out for much too long. It has done irreparable damage to public education. And I think that we will really, really see the I haven't talked to anybody who isn't saying, I don't know about this here. So I can't support the motion. Whatever they do, they need to do it hurry, not in the next 2 months, the next 2 weeks.
Okay, I have Diane for the second time and Deborah for the second time. I'd like to speak, so I'm going to just put myself on the list for the first time.
Point of order, sir. Are we speaking on the amendment or the
Yes,
motion?
on the amendment. So, you know, I understand, I get this. I know that the appointment of Dr. Jago was tainted. His suitability was, or credibility was under question. As he was shown in the legislation before it was passed. He'd written a report for the government, and while the reality may be that they were perfectly legitimate reasons, perception is the reality. And so, I don't know him, I've never heard of him, you know, he may be a very capable person. Having said that, I certainly think that the government could have done a better job in finding someone that both parties could be agreeable to. But mediation is occurring, and I have to sort of go to what Trustee Horsman and Trustee Ferris are saying. The legislation is very specific on the period of mediation and the reporting. The time that the report has to be made, which is June 30th. And as the process is occurring, you know, I don't see how, you know, this would be a letter showing support for the teachers, which I think we've been doing all along. We've been sending them letters of support. I'm wondering if we can say that we're disappointed about that we weren't able to find a mediator that was acceptable. I'm just saying at this point, I'm not sure how I can support this motion because of the timing. To get somebody else in that would be agreed to by both parties, knowing that the legislation requires the report to be done by June 30th, practically speaking, I don't think it's doable. As a gesture of support, I support the intent of this motion. So for your consideration, I'm still mulling over how I will vote at the end. I'd now like to call on Trustee McNally, please.
Thank you, Chair. It was simply my point of order as to if we were discussing the motion with the amendment.
So I'll go to Trustee North.
So we're just speaking about the amendment at this time. So I support the amendment.
Is there any further discussion or debate with respect to the amended motion? I'll read the motion with the amendment. That the Board of Education School District number 61, Greater Victoria, write a letter to the Minister of Education requesting the appointment of a new mediator, jointly agreed upon by BCPC and the BCTF in an effort to fairly negotiate an agreement with their teachers.
Point of order, Chair. Don't we have to vote on the amendment? Am I losing it here?
This is including the amendment.
Yeah, but don't we have to vote on acceptance of the amendment first? Or am I mean, I could be really confused. I thought we had to vote on amendment separately.
Well, it was seconded. Yes, it was seconded. Now we're putting the amendment forward we've had the discussion. Now
Do we have a majority of the trustees who want to put the amendment forward, though, Chair, is my question?
Just the
You
amendment.
have to vote on it.
Yeah, that's my
She
point.
just read it in context. We're voting on the amendment.
we're voting on the
I'm
amendment.
terribly sorry. I thought we were voting on the entire motion.
No, we have to go back to the main motion if this is not passed. Okay? So we're voting on the amended motion. Okay, are we?
The amendment.
The amendment. The amendment to the motion, which includes the jointly agreed upon by BCPC and BCTF. So, seeing no further hands, I'll motion?
The
amendment to the motion. Thank you. Okay, those opposed? Put our hands up, guys, please, and ladies. Okay, so Catherine, you're abstaining from this, correct?
I don't think I can actually say I'm abstaining.
She had to have left the room and taken off.
Yeah, but you're not in this vote, okay. So I'm not going to count you as abstaining, but you're here, but you're not voting because of where you are. Do you have it, Vicki, with the... There were three trustees for and 4 trustees against. So we're...
She's not absent, she's clearly received.
So, yes,
Yes.
this doesn't count. We're not
There's
doing
an
that.
expression for it.
Chair recluded.
Yes, they're just not...
Recuse this week, so RUSD, she's recused.
That's right.
Chair, point of order. I understood from advice I've been given that I'm not actually supposed to leave the board today.
That's fine, you
Is that
can
correct?
stay, as long as you're not participating in accounting. It's up to you. You don't have to leave the
But
room at all.
just point of order, it must be noted in the minutes when she recused herself, and then when she
Comes back into, and
Yeah.
yes, Vicki has that. And thanks to Catherine for... Okay, so, the amendment did not pass, so we are back at the main motion, which, Deborah, this was yours?
Yeah.
So if you want to read your vote of the main motion. All those in favor of the main motion? Diane, Edith, and Jennifer. And those opposed? And there's Leonard, Martin, and Washington. All right, the motion is defeated. We'll need to find another way to show support for our teachers. I would suggest. Moving on to our next motion, and this motion has been put forward again by trustee.
So I'm no longer recused.
Catherine is back in the room.
Back in the
Thank you,
game.
trustee Alcala.
Back in the game. Yes.
Trustee Leonard.
The second motion, we have two, I believe, from my email, that this has been done, this has been taken care of. So I would suggest that maybe trustee Moore take the motion off the floor.
Motion of 2 is about the Cowichan board.
No, it's not. It's about
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, you're right. Okay, I've got,
So I saw.
Yes,
one
that-
letter go up.
but I'm not sure that everybody knows that. So I'd like to thank trustee Norm, but we must have been raised in the same generation by our moms, where I write lots of thank you notes, and those notes, those letters have gone to our groups already, so the motion is redundant. But I appreciate you bringing it forward.
Yes.
Yes, certainly can.
So thank you for that. So I appreciate that. I think that's very important that we provide that feedback. And I wonder if our partner groups, does that include going to the VCPAC only, or does it go to the school PACs as well, school planning councils?
It went to 5 different groups, stakeholder groups. VCPAC was one, GBTA received one, ASA received one, QP received one.
What about school planning councils? They provided a lot of written input.
We didn't send one to the school planning councils. We have to go back and look at exactly which school planning councils actually participated, because not all of them
But we do. We have a big packet with all of the school planning councils there. So
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
We have to go back and make sure, I guess, separate them out. So I think Deputy Superintendent Bell will follow up on that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And we'll have a copy of that correspondence at some point.
They were sent out in email.
I haven't seen it. But they came in an email?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll check my email. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
you'll have a list on them
Yeah.
when you get to them, Deborah. You'll see there's 5.
Thank you.
So, so we'll just follow up then on that when the school planning council, make sure. So now we'll go to F3, which is Trustee Nora, your letter to Cowichan Board of Education.
Thank you very much. So this, my final motion for the evening, that the Board of Education of School District 61 write a letter of support to the Cowichan Board of Education for their efforts to engage with the Ministry of Education to restore lost funding to their students. As I thought about this motion...
Point of order, you need a seconder, and I'll
Oh,
second.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you. No, thank you. I feel like the Cowichan District is actually setting an example for all the boards in the province not to accept the status quo, which is the current process, which is, it has evolved, but we now add a letter and a list of our needs, but this is taking the process further, and I think it's well worth observing and supporting. I feel that their efforts have resulted in greater community involvement and also informing their community about the specifics of the issues that they're facing with underfunding. I feel like it's a new level of proactive advocacy, and there's no doubt that having a face-to-face meeting, as they have already with James Gorman, and now we'll be going forward with a 6-week process, is important. I don't know what it will result in, but from my personal experience, any personal meeting is much more valuable than a letter and a chart going past one's desk. And I know that we've put a great deal of work into that. Nevertheless, the face-to-face meeting is extremely important. I was speaking with their chair today, and she said that the Cowichan Chief and Council has unanimously supported their efforts, and that the Assembly of First Nations provincially has supported their efforts. There was a frank discussion about the amount of funding that was taken out of the budget in 2001 with Mr. Gorman, and there was, it's just a clear and more accountability that lingers at the Ministry of Education level. And so for that reason, I would ask my fellow board members to consider this letter of support to Cowichan. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Nora, Trustee McNally, Trustee Lord Kamuka, and Trustee Alpha at this point in time.
Thank you. I was at the Cowichan board meeting when the third and final reading of their restoration budget vote was taken, and it was an exciting moment. They've done a lot of background work, and kudos to them for that. They've done a hugely inclusive process. It's all online. There's streaming video of their chair explaining their rationale and their process. So it's very well thought out, and to me, it's true advocacy. I mean, they're participating a lot in the interest of their students. So just to let you know, when the vote was taken, and those of you who've seen the streaming video probably know that when the vote was taken, members of the community, I'd say there were about 100 people there, and at least 90 of the 100 raised their hands when the question was called for And there's a standing ovation when the vote carried. The community is hugely supportive, and I think probably a wider community is hugely supportive of their courage as well. I know as a member of a general community of people interested in public education and fearful for the way the current cuts are affecting our ability to provide the best education to students. I consider myself part of that community, and so I'm speaking in favor of this motion.
Thank you, Trustee McNally. Trustee Lorcan.
Yes. On Sunday morning at 8 o'clock, when CPAC comes on with Sean, I actually listened to the chair for about 20 minutes on CPAC, and I thought she gave an incredible report and why they're taking such a strong stand for standing up for restoring funding back to public education in the way that it used to be. So I think that, just listening to her and her rationale and what she was talking about in terms of restoration, what are the areas, the people that have been involved in, I think that they're really getting out there and trying to educate the general public about what the restoration budget is and what it means and why the public needs to really get behind public education in BC. And if we're really serious about fully funding public education, then we have to take a stand. And I'm just really impressed with the evening and how well she presented it. So I think it's a great motion as well.
Thank you, Trustee. Trustee Elton.
I'm speaking in favor of this motion as well. On the second day that the Liberal government was in power, they gave a 25% tax cut, a 25% income tax cut that they could not afford. And that tax cut was made on the backs of our most vulnerable students. They continue to make tax cuts for corporations. They can't afford those either. And the way they're funding that is by cutting services to our children in our classrooms. I really think it's important what the Cowichan Board is doing. And it's one of the greatest rays of light that I've seen in this very, very dark decade. I'm incredibly impressed, deeply moved by the Cowichan Board of Education and their courage. And I think that every parent in Cowichan who has a child that needs just a little bit extra is going to be very proud of that board and certainly have already shown that they're standing behind it. And I was unaware of other people or other bodies who have spoken out in favor of this. And that only shows that the time for this kind of action is now. So I'm strongly supporting writing a letter in support of the Cowichan Board of Education.
Thank you, Trustee Alpha. I see Trustee Ferris and then Trustee Gorson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I certainly agree that boards throughout the province have an obligation to advocate for funding under the existing circumstances. But for me personally, I think I want to distinguish between advocacy, I think is important, politics, which is also important, but I don't really want to get, I am not here to defeat the government. I am here to perform my task, which is to execute the budget that we execute with the amount of money that we're given, even though that is a difficult task to do. Now, I know that we had trustees around the table who did not vote for the budget, and clearly you didn't vote for the budget because you didn't think there was enough money, and this is your way of advocating for more money. So I respect that. But that's not a route that I'm going to go down. Because democracy is not just advocating until I get my way. Democracy is, in effect, the opportunity to advocate. You have the opportunity to advocate. You don't always get everything you want. In fact, sometimes you don't care because of how little you want. But nonetheless, that's the way democracy operates. And we're not the only voters in the province. There are many, many voters in the province. So for those in, I suppose, a variety of other reasons, I won't be supporting this letter. I think perhaps it is admirable that Cowichan has done what it's done. But on the other hand, I can't see how their students benefit from this in the short term. For many people. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Ferris. Trustee Horsman, please. Thank you. I just might have a question first and then a comment, but directing my question to the Secretary Treasurer through you, Madam Chair. Has the Cowichan Board been dealt with more harshly by the Ministry of Ed? Have they had more grants revoked than we have? Or have they been in deficit that they have to pay back? Or is there any reason why they're in a worse position than other boards in the province?
3.8 million is their deficit.
Yeah, I think
That's what Edith told me today.
870,000.
Now they've increased it. The numbers are all over the place.
Well, that's what the chair said today, so I'm just reporting that.
And that's a hard figure, or is that a needs budget type figure? I don't know, anyway.
Yeah, I
just
can't
have a
answer that.
question to the Secretary
Yeah.
Treasurer. Do you know if there's any financial kind of persecution that they're under, or that they're more in a harsher situation than most of the rest of us?
I don't think that they've been treated any differently than any other district, but having said that, I also think it needs to be understood that different districts are able to cope with financial funding differently depending on whether they're rural or urban, whether they have a strong international program or not, whether they're able to make money off of leased properties. There, as you well know, there's lots that will go into creating a budget, and certainly not all districts are created fairly, though I am sure that they're not being persecuted. I cannot speak as to whether or not they are being treated fairly.
Okay, well, that having been said, I would vote for this motion if it weren't for the fact that the Cowichan Board would use that letter of support to assume that we support their non-passing of the balanced budget, because I don't support that. I'm sorry, but it's our job to pass a balanced budget. And it's not our job to walk away and throw our hands in the air and let somebody else come in from the ministry who doesn't know our district, has no sense of the value of the programs in our district, and whose sole purpose is to balance the bottom line with reckless disregard for community input or community support. I don't support that at all. I think that we are elected to advocate for the funds that we need, and nobody thinks we have enough funds. There's no board in the province. I don't know that there's any trustee in the province who thinks we have enough money. But we all have to find ways to do our advocacy that does not endanger our district. And in my opinion, voting, consciously voting for an unbalanced budget or consciously deciding not to balance the budget is, in my opinion, an abrogation of duty of the trustee and why we're elected in the first place. So I would love to say I support the Cowichan Board in their efforts to restore funding for the district. I mean, anybody with any heart or sense of education whatsoever would support that. But I stopped short of supporting their non-passing of the balanced budget because, in my opinion, that endangers their district. And so that's where you go from the educational to the political. And educationally, I support all advocacy efforts. But politically, I cannot support somebody inviting in the ministry to do their work. and then stand there with their arms folded. There just doesn't strike me as a practice. So I'm very much divided as to the way that you worded the motion here. You're asking for support for them to restore funding, which is great. I certainly support that. However, I don't support their action, and therefore, in the end, I can't support the motion because I know how the letter of support will be used.
Thank you, Trustee Horstman. I have Trustee Leonard, myself, and Trustee Noor, and then Trustee Catherine, who's already spoken once to this. I'm going to, the order will be Trustee Leonard, Trustee Alva.
So just to give a little bit of perspective again, that seems to be my job here. I've been on the board almost 16 years, and so I've been here through two governments. In 1999 was the first time that I've had to have the question about closing schools prior to the Liberal government. It's been a chronic underfunding for as long as I've been on the board. It's gone through two governments. So who's to say it's not going to go through more governments? That's my little history lesson. Somebody also said that these trustees are taking considerable risk in doing what they're doing in college. Well, actually, I think the students and the staff and the parents are taking the bigger risk in supporting them. Because if a government bean counter comes in July and slashes and burns to make up the 3 whatever million or however their shortfall is, those students and staff and parents and kids are going to lose programs that they never thought they were going to lose, because all they're going to do, as Trustee Horstman said, is come in and balance the budget. They might look for the easiest one, they might not, they might close schools, they might do a whole number of things, but they're going to balance the budget, and they're going to look for the efficiencies that the community has not supported in previous years, in previous budget cuts, and that's what they do. So that's really hard. The trustees may be taking the perceived risk, but the risk is to the district and the kids and the staff, because they're the ones that are going to take the fallout for this decision. So I can't support this. I just think that we are elected to sit here, and as Trustee Farah said, this is our job. This is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to go through whomever the government is and balance the budget and look after the kids and the staff in our district. And that's what we're elected to do. So I can't support the motion.
Thank you, Trustee Leonard. I'll now go to Trustee Noor, and then I will speak, and then count. Is there any other speakers to them?
Thank you. One point that I didn't make is that Cowichan is making an extraordinary effort to restore co-governance. We have seen that the ability of trustees to have an equal part in the process of developing the budget for their district has evaporated essentially, and now it's a reactive position that trustees are in. So this is an effort to restore co-governance, to work toward reestablishing co-governance. The motion says to support the Cowichan Board of Education for their efforts to engage with the Ministry of Education to restore lost funding to their students. It doesn't reference their budget in the vote necessarily. So, in a sense, I think that if we look at it in the most finite sense, that we should be in support of this. This is a very important thing to break through to a different level of advocacy. Certainly, Saanich did it last year and had meaningful conversations, and I think to the benefit of their district. In the end, we could debate whether there was a real financial impact or not, but it was beneficial. So I don't consider it politics. I consider it advocating for our students. And I just say that, the teachers are continuing to do an extraordinary job with less and less. When I started teaching in the 1970s, every student in my classroom had their needs met. Every lesson, every day, I felt like I was able to get to those children and they had a successful experience. I spoke to a teacher just last week who had a student teacher and an additional EA in the room for just one class. And after about a half an hour of the class, they looked at each other and said, wow, this was really amazing. We got to every student. And so this isn't politics. This is about addressing the neglect of our students in our district at this point. And while we have many tremendous programs in our district, and those 3 students tonight were examples of that, moving examples, we still have many, many students whose needs are not met.
Thank you, Trustee Norm. A number of things. I have difficulty with this motion. We struggled to make a decision that we have 2 goals, and one is to meet the requirements under the school act in order that there is local community involvement with our education partners, our students, our children. And the second role that we play is that as advocates, and they run parallel to one another at all times. And I think that this board has, over the last couple of years, has started to become more and more stronger advocates. We're reaching out and finding new advocates to help us in that role. We do have the ability to ask for and get face-to-face meetings with the minister. As our superintendent secretary treasurer likes to say, location, and we utilize that location to our advantage in order to make sure that our students, our children, get the best possible education they can. Now, I wasn't a teacher in the 1970s. Deborah, Trustee Norm, I'm not minimizing this, having said that. In the 1970s, I was a student. And school was very much different then, and the requirements and the needs were very much different then than they are now. We didn't have choice. We didn't have a lot of extra programs. You either went to check or you matriculated. We didn't recognize a lot of our special needs children's needs, so there wasn't that pressure on the system. So to compare those children, really, those needs being met then to today, I don't think we truly recognized their needs in the 1970s. And it was not through neglect, it was just the way the pedagogy of education was, and we thought we were meeting their needs. And quite frankly, I'm the result of that, and I didn't go further in my education. But, so there's a difference between the 1970s and 2012. I look at this kind of as a, quite frankly, when it gets down to it, it's a game of chicken with the government. Who's going to fold first? We looked at the Saanich last year, and there's 2 sides to that story. There's the story that Saanich put out that their demands resulted in them getting money. It was mostly the government that said there was all that money that they got. And then there's the third side, which is a combination or somewhere in the middle of those 2. I can't say, but I wasn't at that table. I wasn't privy to any of that information. So I'm not going to make a determination on that. Another thing that concerns me is that when this first came forward, the chair was talking about $870,000 that there was their shortfall. They were demanding $1 million, so they rounded it up. And I can see that, you can find something there. But now it's gone to 3.5 million. It's changed. And I haven't seen the reason for that change. When we talk about restoration budgets, we've done that, and I've spoken about that earlier this evening with respect to, you can't just look at 1999 and 2012 and say the dollars then should be the same as they are today, because the value of the dollar is different, plus the needs and what we were going through, our enrollment numbers, all the rest of it, we're thinking then as they are today. So those are arguments that cloud the real issue. I would love to support Cowichan, but the minister's been very clear to say if they don't file a balanced budget by June 30th, he will fire them. So what will happen then is the 5 trustees who voted to do this, and then the majority of the board is bound by that, so the other 4 who voted against it will be sent off for a minimum of 6 months. We can run a by-election as of next January. But in the meantime, government, as Trustee Leonard said, will send in their administrators, and they will do whatever the Cowichan board can do. So it's going to be done one way or another. And certainly, the trustees can say it wasn't us, it was them. Having said that, if they are re-elected in the by-election, which, by the way, will cost $56,000 out of the money they don't have that by-election, and if the mood is the same and they get the support, assuming that they do and they all are re-elected, they're going to be faced with the result of what that government trustee has done. And, you know, they can say we took them on, but really what they want. At the end of the day, the government's going to do what the board couldn't do to meet the requirements under the school law. And I'll tell you, when I was first a trustee, I was pushing for a new budget on I got chastised, I got my hands met. I thought I would do all of that stuff, and smiling at it. And then I learned there's different ways. There's different ways to get what you need. And to me, it means that we follow the dual role. That we follow what is the law. But at the same time, we do our advocacy. And there's many ways that we can follow that advocacy. And we're trying that. So that's one way, but there's another point on, and I think I did hit on all of them. So when you speak about their efforts specifically are to file against the budget, which is against the school law, which means that they will be fired. And I can't support that because I couldn't support our own board doing that, but I would have supported others. Why didn't I have guts to stand up and do that? That's what people say is needed. Why would I then stand up and support it like the way they did that? Trustee Alva, thank you.
Well, I'm just going to take a minute to address a couple of, or 3 things that definitely bothered me. I think that when we're talking around the table, we need to be a little bit careful not to use really inflammatory language, and I need to be aware of that myself, because I can certainly go there. But when we say reckless disregard of the public, and 100 people have shown up at the budget meeting, and 90 of them voted in solidarity with the Cowichan board, I would say that's strong support of what the public wants. When the Provincial Assembly of First Nations supports what the Cowichan board is doing, I would say that's strong support of what the public wants. When the Cowichan Chief and Council speak in support of what the Cowichan board is doing, once again, strong support of the public. There isn't reckless disregard. It's strong support of the sentiment that is coming forward clearly from the public. I think the public is indicating by its actions to the Cowichan board that this is what they've been waiting for, and they're glad to see it, and they support it. I think that they have been waiting for a long time for somebody to stand up and say the emperor has no clothes. And finally, somebody is doing that there is a board that is doing that. And to me, it's amazing that the Provincial Assembly of First Nations is speaking in favor of what the Cowichan Board is doing. I find that humbling and really quite amazing. Then the second piece being, I don't think we can assume that the $3.8 million comes from $1999 and then now. I don't think we know where the Cowichan Board got their $3.8 million. So I don't really think that we can make assumptions about that particular money, that particular dollar amount. And we would need to ask for further detail and not actually like try and second guess what the Cowichan Board is doing in terms of factual piece. I don't know where they got their $3.8 million. I didn't ask. But we don't know that it's because of $1999. We don't know if it's because of cuts. We don't know if it's because of restoration. We don't know any of that. So I don't think we should make assumptions. Then the third piece that I wanted to talk about is the political piece. I think that is why we're trustees. The federal government, the provincial government, and the municipal governments and school boards were checks and balances. And this certainly is a political position. We were elected. And I think the public actually expects us to take political positions. And if the present day provincial government has made tax cuts that it could not afford and made those tax cuts on the backs of our most vulnerable students, it is my responsibility to say so. Those tax cuts could not be afforded, because if they could have been afforded, there wouldn't be the kinds of cuts that have taken place in our classrooms, and our students wouldn't be paying for it. And I just want to say that, in 1987, my son went to Sundance School, or he had been going for a while at that point. And he had been diagnosed with a learning disability. He'd also been diagnosed as being gifted. That boy had so much support, it was amazing. He had learning assistance. He had integration support. He was part of a gifted program so, he would be going to learning assistance, IS, gifted, everything. So there was a time when these children with multiple problems actually got their needs met in the public school system consistently. We need to not pretend that the way it is now is the way that it has always been. The way it is now is not the way it has always been. We used to have so many more education assistants in the classroom. We used to have integration support. We used to have learning assistants. We used to have gifted programs in the elementary school. My son was in grade 3 and he was in a gifted program. Yeah, they used to be there. And I'm not in any way saying that what the board decided to cut in the past is the board's fault. But it is up to me as a trustee to hold the provincial government during the time that I'm on board accountable for the cuts they're making. I'm holding them accountable. And I'm saying what Cowichan is doing here is a very strong holding accountable. A government that has managed to put spin onto decisions that have badly damaged our public education system and our students pay. There is no other way of seeing it or saying it. Our students pay for the funding cuts that have been made. Those funding cuts were not necessary. They could not afford the tax cuts. They should not have done it.
Hands, and also, see, hearing no new points, I'm going to call the question on the motion that the Board of Education, School District Number 61, Greater Victoria, write a letter of support to the Cowichan Board of Education for their efforts to engage with the Ministry of Education to restore lost funding to their students. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. We have Trustee McNally, Trustee Warner-Linder, Trustee North, Trustee Alba. Those opposed? Trustee Ferris, Trustee Leonard, Trustee Horsman, Trustee Orchardson, and the motion is defeated. I think we're on to our last motion. And Trustee McNally, it's your motion. If you would like to put it on the floor, please.
If there's a chance to read it, do I have a seconder? Okay, I'll just ignore it there. The web page be set up on the School District 61 site for all public letters written by the chair of the board in order to highlight and make publicly accessible board actions and advocacy. The reason I would like that is because I've on occasion tried to go back and think, well, where was that excellent letter that was written advocating for whatever item it was that I was looking for, and I couldn't find it. And I'm not sure, they're in emails to us, and I guess they're attached to minutes probably somewhere, but it's difficult to find them. Maybe that's my own problem, I don't think it is. And it would be simple and a good thing, I think, for the board to make letters written by the chair, and maybe press releases too, but that's kind of a side trip from the motion. To make letters really easily, publicly accessible. Some of the districts do this. I'm reading all the websites of all the school districts, and it's kind of a slog. I'm in School District 39 now, I think, Richmond, and I haven't got to Vancouver yet, but they do have an advocacy page, and Cooney Lake has an advocacy page. I think there were more that other people have seen. And even if they don't, so what if other districts aren't stamping to do this? I think it would be a really great idea. It would be so simple. For example, for this advocacy letter that we're going to send out about the needs budget, once we discuss it again and maybe tweak it there, I don't know. But, basically it's an awesome letter, and it would be great to have it on a page where it would be easy to find and people wouldn't have to go looking for it. So that's my argument. Now somebody's probably going to tell me how simple it is to find all the letters.
Thank you, Trustee McNally. Trustee Horsman, please.
Thank you. Well, I think this is a good idea, but I don't think it needs a separate web page. Pardon me, I don't think it would be hard to put a new bar on our current web page, because there is one for Board of Trustees and there is one for board meetings. There could be one for, it could be called Board Advocacy, or it could be called Letters to the MLA or whatever. So I would propose an amendment to the motion. Maybe you consider it a friendly amendment, I don't know. As soon as I make it, you get a chance to see. And the amendment is add button on the, so that the motion reads that a button on the web page be set up on the SB 61 site for all public letter writing. And this would not be a difficult thing to do, and in fact, it would be more centralized, easier to find.
May I respond to it? As far as the friendly amendment goes, the button's going to take you to a page.
That's what you mean.
Well, it will take you to a page.
Yeah, it would hyperlink on the whole
It takes you to a page.
Yeah.
The
You have to set up the page first and then set up the button. So, I don't think your amendment really adds anything to this. Set up a page.
I don't think you understood my amendment.
I think I did.
Well,
When you hit a button, you
I'll
go to
just
page.
clarify my amendment if you don't mind, and then I'd like a second. We have a School District 61 webpage right now, and it's a very comprehensive webpage. It's all
It's a
kinds of-
site, Beth, it's not a page.
Okay, sorry. It's very comprehensive. There are all kinds of things that you can click on. I won't use the word button. Maybe that's not correct either, but you know what I'm talking about here. So there are many, I'm going to say button, but there are many little categories that you can click on for further information. Each one of those categories opens up a new page. Not a new site, but a new page. So if that's what's called for, we don't need a separate thing. We just need a button, an additional button on our current website.
You're both right. Yeah.
I'm just going to add to that. This is perfectly doable. Easy. I think it's a great idea. Whether it's a button, whatever. I think the intent of the motion is great. I would wonder, like, would you be considering going back to the beginning of this year? You've got those letters available, and posting them from January.
Could I just reply to that?
Yeah,
Certainly, and we need a button. I agree with Trustee Workman. In order to find the page, we need a button. So this is all good.
Okay, so what I'm saying now then is, in practical terms, then we could go back and pull our letters, and just so that you know, the ministry was behind in responding to some letters, so we've had a flurry. So there's more letters coming. And that's good, because we can certainly post those, and it shows the activity that this board has undertaken to advocate. So, I think this can be done fairly quickly and fairly easily. So I have absolutely no problem. We can take it as direction, or as they call it in Robert's rules, it's consensus. By consensus, we don't have a motion. Yes, Trustee Albert.
Well, could we go back further? Because we have been doing some other advocacy, like earlier on, we wrote some really good letters as well. So
I'm just thinking of this board, since this board was...
Yeah, okay.
Okay?
But there was some really good letters.
Yeah, but we could go back to where are those really good letters, but I think that what we want to say, this is this board, this is what's been done since this board was elected.
Okay.
And that's my take on it anyway, if that's okay with everybody else.
Just a point of order, if this is going to be consensus, what will happen in the motion? I don't want it to appear that I
We can leave it
withdrew.
as a motion, it's on the floor, there's been a seconder, we'll vote, since it is, it's already there, so I'm going to call the, are you calling the question, or do you want to speak? Oh, well, slow down. Okay, I'm calling the question, those in favor of the motion? And that would be unanimous. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is, I believe, just the communication. It's for your information. Speaking of letters. No. Trustee Ferris, we do have an item of disclosure from the in-camera meeting. I'll turn it over to Secretary Treasurer. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to inform everybody that the Board of Education of School District 61, Greater Victoria, leased the Lansing School site to Scolaire Francophone to the Columbia Britannique for a three-year term effective September 1st, 2012.
Thank you. Now, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for a good evening. I really did want to do a picture with Deb. Would you take a couple minutes with us, please? And Elaine, you have to have that on.
And Brad,
Brad and John as
we're
well.
not speaking.
Brad, you can't come to a meeting with Brad and not expect to.
Yeah, you gotta come.
you want everyone to get together?
Yes, I believe that's the plan. Chair,
I'd like that actually to see it here.
We can all stand behind her. Yeah.
And then, well, I will stand around you. You look lovely like that hospital with the national. Are you sure? Okay. Okay, you have to direct us. You got the hat on, so you got to get.
That's going to be in the middle.
That's direction.
Okay, we're going to have to get friendly here, gang. Very, very friendly.
Hey, I'm vertically challenged.
This way. This way. Keep moving. This way. Keep this way. Don't be shy. Not a chance.
Come on.
We all pack it in there. We still need to do more. Get General Moore's other things so you can join us. Oh, great. My pro. Just take it one or two. Now you're going to get a good picture. Will the flash pop up by itself?
Yes, we just moved her.
It did flash.
Yeah. We're taking another one just in case. We take it off the readers. And we all want copies and put it on the website.
Let me just have a look here.
You're good. Take a picture.
Yes.
Let me
What? What did you say? Well, that's always a good idea. Started at last week's operations meeting, was the first one that was recorded. The reason we're doing this is as a stopgap while we're hoping to be able to set up some live streaming to our website, and we're currently looking at getting that done. So we have a camera here that we can stream to the web, which looking to have the opportunity for people to be able to see what's happening at these meetings. So that's the purpose of this, just so that you all understand that. I'd like to now move into A1, which is approval of the agenda. Yes?
Question following up. Chair, the live streaming isn't set up yet. What's the point of recording meetings?
Well, it's the same thing. We've had recording of meetings by members of the public since January and started getting speakers and that. And we just thought, you know what, we should be doing the same thing. We need to be getting on with technology. And we've started looking at the live streaming. In the meantime, the recording, the voice recording will be a record. If there's any discussion on what was said by whom or whatever. Does that help? Okay, you're welcome. So moving on to approval of the agenda, I'd like to notify those of you that have seen the latest, it will likely be corrected on the package, but for the one that was sent out last week from the trustees and anybody that may have printed it off, there's been a slight change when we look at under Operations Policy and Planning Committee. There's a number of recommended motions that came out of that committee, and one was B5, Roman numeral 5, which has actually been moved now to C1 because that motion was tabled to this meeting. Okay, and that's with respect to the Board of Education writing a letter to the Minister of Education requesting restoration of special needs funding, and we were waiting for some additional information from one of our trustees before we move forward on it. We haven't received that, so we'll see what happens when we get there. But, is there anything further from anybody else with respect to the agenda? Any changes to that before I move for acceptance? Trustee Horseman.
I'd like to speak on the trustee report.
Okay, are there any other trustees? trustees' reports. Deb will speak. And we also have trustee Noor and trustee McNally.
And I'd like to speak on the trustee representatives, if you have them.
Trustee Laura Domingo, were you wanting your name on for both or just the trustee report? Pardon me?
Trustee report?
Okay, so, and Diane, you want under both? Okay. Seeing no further additions, a motion to adopt the agenda as approved in order. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion is carried. And we'll move on to the approval of the April 16th, 2012 minutes. Are there any errors, omissions? Any discussion? Seeing none, do we have someone to move approval of the minutes? Second? You got a question?
No, second.
Okay. Seeing no questions, all those in favor? Thank you. Is there any business arising from the minutes? Seeing none, I'll move on to our first item on the agenda, which is student achievement. And I would like to call upon Pat Duncan, our Associate Superintendent, to introduce S.J. Willis Education Center Student Success. Thanks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It is with great pleasure that I get to introduce to you Principal Judith Reed and some friends that she's brought along with her today. Just a little background, it was 2 years ago that we moved our distributed learning school, the link, to the S.J. Willis Education Center, thereby having 3 schools under one roof. And it was Judith Reed was tasked with putting these schools together, and she's done a masterful job. And as I said, she's brought 3 friends with her tonight to share their stories. So I'll turn it over to Principal Judith Reed.
Good evening, everyone. I'm really pleased to be here this evening to introduce to you 3 students from S.J. Willis Education Center. Each of them is enrolled in one school, each of them a different school at S.J. Willis Education Center. As you know, each school at S.J. Willis delivers curriculum in its own way. Each has a unique timetable, or in the case of one school, no timetable at all. And each school offers student support in its own way as well. What the 3 schools share beyond shared space is the ability to mix and match programs, to provide options for continuous entry, and to allow students to individualize their pathway to graduation. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce these 3 young adults this evening. All 3 students, when I asked them if they would come this evening, responded positively and without a single hesitation. They're here to talk about what they like about their school, why it works for them, and how their school supports them in their path to academic success. All 3 of these people are going to graduate in June, and we're really proud of them. John Bard is from the Link. He's going to speak first, followed by Sydney Bart, who is with continuing education, and then Megan Jones, who will speak. And she's enrolled in alternative education at S.J. Willis Education Center.
Hi there. So as you heard, my name is John. I've been a Link student for 2 years now. I'm graduating in June, a year early in fact. And basically what this school has helped me do, as I said, is graduate a year early. And this is because I've been able to go at my own pace. That's because I'm self-motivated to finish early. And the school in itself has actually helped me do this because the teachers are so great in every respect. Because this school has given me so much time of one-on-one with each and every teacher, every subject, that I've managed to do so well in each course and finish early, like I said. In every respect, the school is great. The teachers are awesome, facilities are great, like everything about the school is just perfect. I'm a great supporter of the school, and I can let it stay like this. Thanks.
I didn't get along with the students and teachers. I was always getting into trouble. I didn't get support I needed. I was seen as a problem child, and most of my time was spent in the counselor's office helping my voice in class. At the beginning of my grade 10 years, after 2 years of struggling with high school, I dropped out, and I had absolutely no plans on returning. After I dropped out, I moved out on my own, and I had to work full time. So I learned pretty quick that I needed my education to be successful in my life. I didn't want to go back to a regular high school, and I also couldn't go back to a regular high school because I didn't want to work. That's when I came across continuing education. I went back to school halfway through what should have been my graduation year, and in the past year and a half, I've been able to complete my grade 10, my grade 11, and half my grade 12. Now I'm one semester away from completing my doctorate. I think continuing education works for me because I fit in. And there's a sense of community, and I truly feel as though no one is left behind. I've gotten so much help since I've been continuing education. It also works around my hours. Learning Center is open till 9:30 in the evening, so I'm able to take early morning classes in the classroom, and I can go back late at night to study if I need to. I think what helps me the most, though, is that none of the teachers and staff have given up on me like many from the last high school I went to. Everyone's equal, and I get the support I need, and that's why it works for me. That's why I love learning, and that's why I love being in class every day now. I really feel blessed that I've been able to attend continuing education, because without this program, I wouldn't be graduating. Thank you.
My name's Megan. I've been going to Streetville Alternative Education for almost a full year now, which is a huge accomplishment for me because generally by this time of the year I'd be saying, screw it, be sitting at home, not going to school, for the summer months, and whether that be my grades catching up with me or busier months at work and having to take more shifts, I was just not going to school. Until this year, where I have found a huge change. I went into the school year with one grade 9 course I still need to finish and just 2 grade 10 courses. And I didn't go in with big expectations because I didn't really know much about the school. I didn't really know anything about the school, to be honest. And even though I didn't have big expectations, when I went in, I was very surprised. First thing that surprised me was definitely the students. They were all there for different reasons, were brought there for different reasons, but everyone was going for the same reason, and that was to get their education. You go into the lunchroom and everyone's sitting at one table. If there isn't enough room for someone, the random student at the table, you pull another table in and everyone has a spot, and so it was really welcoming. And then the next thing that really surprised me were the teachers. All of them are there on a one-to-one basis. You're there calling them by their first names, which really helped because everyone's treated equally or whatever, and they were there to help you with each of your specific needs for as much time as you needed it, and that was really, really helpful. And the other thing, like they said, is they didn't give up on you, and that was the biggest thing because by this time of the year, you have your report card to say you're failing, and you were just another number that failed. But now they actually are there to try and motivate you to graduate, and that's probably the only reason why I'm still going to school and I'm going to graduate this July. So thank you, SJ, and I really think the only thing that can do with the school is to go there earlier.
Thank you to Judith, John, Sydney, and it's particularly special for me because Sydney is my niece, and I'm extremely proud of her, as all of her families, I'm sure. And we're equally as proud of John and Megan making these choices that will have an impact, a positive impact on the University of York. So congratulations to all of you for finding your way, and thank you to SJ for being that path for them finding their way. It means a lot to the students and to their families and all of us at this table who advocate to find that niche for each of our students. So thank you very much. So our next item on the agenda is a presentation that I will make. I believe I'll be making it to Judith.
please. It was supposed to be Trustee McAvoy. Having said that, I'm a shorter version. And I'm not inviting close. But this is a certificate of appreciation, and it's given to S.J. Willis in recognition of the outstanding generosity of the staff and students of the S.J. Willis Education Center during the 2011 SBC's 20 United Way campaign. A gold plaque was delivered to the school earlier this year, but S.J. Willis Education Center raised a total of $3,095 in 2011, and the donations from S.J. exceeded the average gift across all the public schools in our region. Something really to be proud of, all of you. The money raised was through individual staff donations, sales by the foods and nutrition class, special lunches and bake sale, and from a staff-organized summer auction. The generous donation of the S.J. Willis Education Center assisted the Greater Victoria United Way in raising $5.9 million to help the most vulnerable people in our community. And the board congratulates and thanks the staff and students of S.J. Willis for their wholehearted support of the important community campaign. Well done and well considered. Thank you. Thank you. Now, just so that you youngins, know, and your parents, if you wish, you are welcome to leave the meeting while we get into the rest of the business of our meeting. You don't have to sit through herding of cats and all that kind of stuff. It's fun sometimes. So I just put on, but you're more than welcome to leave. And thank you so much. Thanks, Ron. Take care. Thank you, Judith. And to all of you, Megan and John. It was great hearing your stories. So our next item on the agenda is our community presentations, which are 5 minutes per presentation. And at this point in time, I'd like to call upon Rhonda Brown, the Executive Director, and Monty Bryant, the Street Principal, my eldest son's school zone master. Board member of Big Brothers and Big Sisters, you're here to thank us. I think that's a little Thank you.
When I booked our time, I was asked, what's it about? And the person, I said, it's positive, which is all good. So chairperson, trustees, it's different for me to be at this end of the table, but I want to thank you this evening. We want to thank you for allowing us to place this trailer on the back lot. We store clothing, mainly clothing in this trailer that we later get money for from Valley Village, which essentially is the largest funding component that funds Big Brothers and Big Sisters. As an educator, I've been on the board of Big Brothers and Big Sisters for 20 years. And I joined because I could see the huge difference that it made in the lives of students. And we're going to cut a little bit more of that in a second. First of all, I'd like to thank Jordan Poe, John Gateman, and Seamus Howley for helping to steer this project through. There's always little details to work out, and that's very much appreciated. I'd now like to introduce Rhonda Brown, the Executive Director of Big Brothers Big Sisters, and she's going to tell us more about our organization. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for doing such a great job training Monty for us. And thank you very much for letting us throw the trailer on the back lot. It means a lot to our organization. It seems like a simple thing and can look probably like a nuisance. But for us, it just translates into as much needed dollars for our organization and support to families in our community. The cost savings alone, just in having it parked so close to where it needs to be delivered, is significant for us given the rising cost of gas prices in the community today. So really, genuinely, thank you very much. Having a partnership with the school district is not new for us. We celebrated several years in partnership with you through our in-school mentoring program, and continue to offer a very successful program in many of the elementary schools in your district. Last year, we served 172 children through that program, matching them for the school year in a one-to-one relationship with a mentor. That's a huge success, I think, in our community, in our schools. We have teachers and counselors and school principals as our strong advocates who are identifying the most vulnerable children in those schools and making sure that they have the best chance at being successful, not only in their classroom and in their academics, but socially and developmentally by pairing them with a screened and trained adult mentor who provides a link, I think, between the school and their home and community and really supports their success. So I think we all have a lot to be very proud of in terms of that program. Big Brothers Big Sisters of Victoria was it was a 5-year study on the impacts of mentoring across Canada, and the longitudinal study involved several hundred families from Victoria. And the results of that study are most encouraging, with some of the preliminary stats being 48% of children are less likely to have behavior problems in school because they're mentored. 43% are less likely to have conduct problems in school because they have special time on a weekly basis with a mentor. And 34% are less likely to allow themselves to be victimized or bullied by their peers, which I know is a campaign we all fight hard for in our schools every day to ensure that children are safe and protected. So again, speaking to the success of this program and our relationship with you, again, wanting to say thank you. It's been a while since I've had an opportunity to be at the board office to be able to speak about what we do and report back on this valuable relationship we have with you. So I did bring a report on 2010, the results of our in-school mentoring program, to share with you, and of course the study on the impact of mentoring and executive summary. So I'll leave it just at the end of the table here, but thank you for having us, and most importantly, thank you for having our trailer and allowing our mentors every day to come into your schools and help children.
I'd like to now call upon Dermot Travis, the Executive Director of Integrity BC, who will be speaking to us.
Good evening, and I'd like to thank all the members of the board for giving me this opportunity to speak to you tonight on the motion that was defeated at your recent meeting regarding the opportunity for the public to have input at these meetings and to be able to pose questions. I must admit I was a little shocked when I learned I had 5 minutes to speak, and I'm going to try to assure you that I won't use up all of those minutes. But when I learned that the motion was defeated, I remembered something that happened to me in Victoria 30 years ago. And I have good news and bad news for you. The good news is I graduated from Maple Street Elementary School. Bad news is I later graduated from a private boarding school. And at that private boarding school, we had a small little problem, petty theft. And we decided to have a discussion about the idea of putting locks on the dorms. And each of those dorms had 2 or 3 students in them. This was 30 years ago, and the idea of putting locks on doors was quite a shock for the private school. And like all good ideas, the private school appointed a committee to study the idea. And after weeks of discussion and looking at various locks and door handles, the decision was that a deadbolt would be bought for each door, and that the back of that deadbolt would be sealed so that the 2 or 3 students inside couldn't lock themselves in the room and do untold things behind a locked door. And we were very proud. We put a lot of work into this. We met, we had meetings, we looked at different samples, and we came finally to the day that the supervisor was installing locks at various doors. And we finished. And last door, one of the most unlikeliest of students came by. He looked at the lock, looked on the other side of the door, asked me, "Are these master key locks?" We said, "Yeah, the head of the dorm would have a master key." He said, Now, keep in mind, this is the most unlikeliest of students who came to us today. He looked at it and he said, So somebody could get a master key, lock us all in the room at night, and burn the building down. Something we had never thought of. And we had never thought of it because we never took the idea to the students themselves and asked them to ask questions before we made our decision. Sometimes the best ideas, the most brilliant ideas, come from the most unlikeliest of sources. Now, for those of you who don't know, I moved back to Victoria a year and a half ago to start Integrity BC. Integrity BC is an organization to promote accountability and transparency in government at all levels across British Columbia. I moved back from a hotbed of politics, Montreal, Quebec, where I lived for 20 years. And when I learned that this motion was defeated, I sent a message via Facebook to a friend of mine in Montreal who's on the school board. I asked him, "Do you have a question period at the Montreal School Board?" Within a minute and a half, I got a message back going, "Yes, we do. 7:30, be there." I can tell you, when I moved back to Quebec, back to British Columbia, to set up Integrity BC, people warned me, very divisive political problem. And I laughed. Because you don't know divisive politics until you know Quebec. And every level of government in Quebec has a question period. Whether it's the regional community health clinics, where I served for 7 years in the elected position, we had a question period. Whether it's the English school board or the French school board, they have question periods where people can pose questions in either English or French. And Montreal City Council has a question period where people can pose questions in English or French. Public presentations such as I'm doing tonight are not a substitute for a question period, any more than debates in the legislature or among yourselves are a substitute for those question periods. You might, in a public presentation, decide to ask the presenter a question. But I don't have the opportunity to ask you a question. I don't have the opportunity to say, so somebody could lock all of the doors, light the building on fire, and we wouldn't be able to get out. I'm not here tonight to talk about the modalities of how we do it, how long it should be, where it should be on the agenda. I'm here to encourage you to do it. It's for you as trustees to decide what is going to be the most effective manner in which you should do it for your meetings, but most importantly, for your stakeholders. Because you can never have too much democracy, and this is your chance as a board to positively influence the future. Thank you.
We'll now move on to, and I would invite Trustee Horstman to make her report. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd just like to start my report off by, if you could mind staying for a minute, Mr. Travis. Would you mind staying for a minute?
Me?
Yes.
Yep, okay.
I'd like to start my trustee report as the former chair of the Education Policy Development Committee. I was chair for a long time. And you may not know that in our district we have standing committees. Almost all of the motions that come to the board have always gone through the standing committees. The standing committees operate with the reduced rule of order in that people can not only ask questions, they can engage in debate. They simply are recognized by the chair. Mr. Painter here, who comes to most of our standing committee meetings, can attest to the fact that it's a free flow. So I didn't want you to leave the board meeting tonight thinking that coming to the full board meeting is the only opportunity that the public can ask the questions and answers. In fact, the way that we do our business, we design the standing committees so that there is no time limit, unlike the motion which proposed a 10-minute time limit. There's no time limit to public input in these standing committees, and almost all of the motions that come to the board, unless there's some kind of emergency, they've all gone through that public question and answer, trustee open debate, and that's what the minutes that you have to address the full board at the end of the month are meant to recap for people who weren't satisfied with the outcome of whatever happened at the standing committee. They're welcome to come and kind of recap the argument, give their final input, and then the board decides. So although we don't have question and answer in this meeting here, please don't leave the room thinking that we don't do it. We engage big time in interacting with the public. And those agendas and the times are all posted on the website. So everybody has open access.
Chair, would you know
Actually, no. The rules have not changed at this moment, Mr. Travis. But I would invite you to stay because I'm sure there's some other points that will be raised. And you might be, thank you, Monty and Rhonda. You may wish to attend one of our standing committees and see the function. I actually will be addressing this issue in my chair report, which is coming up after the trustee report. So, and then you can certainly leave, but give us a chance to respond to your presentation.
I'm just going to continue with my
Yes, I do need to let the trustee finish her report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I also wanted to report that I am the alternative for the Aboriginal Nations Education Council. Trustee Edith Loring is the delegate. I'm the alternative, and I attended the meeting last Thursday. And I just wanted the board to know that this committee is working hard to go through the Aboriginal Education Enhancement Agreement. So we spent most of our time talking about Goal 4. I'm assuming that we went through the other goals that were preceding meetings. And we also talked about possible ways of reporting out and self-assessment or teacher assessment that could be reported on more of an Aboriginal model. So we looked at several models, or 2 models anyway, and we had a long discussion about that. It was a very, very interesting meeting. And they'll be coming to the board at some point in the future when we finish going through the agreement, and then it goes through the rest of the process through the councils, really working with the rest of the councils. So it's not ready to come to us yet. The other thing that I want to report tonight is that I went to the 100th anniversary of Mackenzie Elementary School. My hat is not quite in keeping with the times, because that was 400 years ago, back in 1912, that the school opened. But it was a wonderful, wonderful celebration. There was a wine and cheese the night before, and several of the old principals were there, many of the old teachers and students. And I went the next day and listened to the kids doing performances, and I sat beside a gentleman who had 1928 on his name tag. And I just want to say that he was particularly moved when the kids sang a song called "This is the Lord's Throne," and I could feel his emotions rising. And through him, I was able to sit there and reflect on how these 6-year-olds with the Army hard hat really had grown up and fought in the Second World War. And of course, there is a memorial at High. There's a plaque, and there's also the memorial trees to commemorate students and staff who went into the war. But anyway, that was a very emotional moment. But I just wanted to say what a nice meeting it was in these days.
Thanks, Trustee Rosamond. We went a little over time, but that's okay. I'd like to call upon Trustee Nora, please, to make her report. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Mr. Travis for attending tonight and for his comments. I was very disappointed when this motion was defeated. When I was campaigning as a candidate for trustee, I met with many people who felt frustrated that they were unable to ask a question at a board meeting. And it's not enough that we have our 2 additional meetings in the month. That is an opportunity, and it's a great opportunity. But this is a public board meeting, and therefore there should be an opportunity for the public. I went to the internet and just checked school districts, and every single school district that I checked in the province, I didn't check them all, have Q&A. Generally, they're near the end of the meeting, but I looked at Vancouver, Maple Ridge, Langley, Coquitlam, Saanich, Sooke, Cowichan, Nanaimo. There's just a few. So I think when we're looking at 21st century engagement, that includes us as trustees at the public board meeting. And I think the story that your personal experience that you recounted is exactly the point, that there is so much valuable information to receive, and this is one of the few opportunities for the public to do it. I wanted to also, so thank you. I also wanted to just let people know that I'm going to be attending on Thursday, Life After High School Transition for Students with Special Needs. As a candidate running for trustee, I wanted to put particular focus on vulnerable students, and this is certainly an area of concern. We have lots of students who have tremendously successful experiences in our high schools, public high schools, and then when they graduate, we have situations where there's not a smooth transition with all the support that we need, though there is going to be many presenters at S.J. Willis on Thursday evening, 6:30 to 8:30, so I look forward to that. I wanted to just also mention that I attended the Mackenzie 100-year celebration, and it was great to see the integration of community, students, past teachers, present teachers, administration. It was a very fabulous collaborative effort with a very excellent recall, historical retrospective. So there was a great deal of information. Campus View, they had a sustainability activity last week. One of their grade 4 students, with their mother's help, wrote an application for a funding, and she received $400, and they did 6 stations around sustainability, and it was just outstanding. Just very quickly, on Wednesday, tomorrow night, is Mount Doug's graduation at UVic, so I'll be attending that. And finally, I have planned to go to Craig Flower to meet with 2 teachers who I connected with during the election campaign, just to talk to them about their insights around vulnerable students. And so I look forward to hearing from them at the end of the year in terms of their experience this year and what they'd like me to know in terms of advocacy. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Nora. I'd now like to call upon Trustee McNally.
Thank you, Chair. I continue to visit the schools in the Esquimalt group of schools, which I was assigned to. So I visited Rock Heights. I tried to spend Friday mornings at Craig Flower. They have an informal parent social, and the path is at that time too. So I drop in and to talk to staff and staff and parents at that time. Shoreline Middle School just desserts music evening. That was a great thing that I attended, and I think I was in a silent auction bid war with the principal for a great vendor acoustic guitar, and I didn't get it, so I guess he did. Students pretty much self-managed their program of musical contributions for the evening, and that was very impressive. They did really well with that. I attended an event with Saanich News. It was just delightful. Saanich News came to Reynolds School on my request and with the permission of the students' parents. Even if you don't read my blog, this is worth going to the blog to see this picture. Annalise, the student, she's an art student in Paul Young's class at Reynolds, and she spent hours and hours and hours on a very surreal pencil crayon drawing of blue whales swimming through the sky, and there's a little girl standing with a blue whale balloon looking at the whales, and the sky fades into grass, but it's like fading into the depths of the ocean. It's indescribably wonderful, so I bought it, and it was her third sale. She was excited. So we commemorated this in Spanish News. It's a wonderful picture. What else? The James Bay Community School Art Gala was amazing. I bought a little wonderful thing there. And I've been to View Royal School to learn more about smart words. I attended the Esquimalt PAC, with a Kiki PAC, and that was a real pleasure. I attended Mackenzie School as well. And you know what the highlight was for me there? I was a Mackenzie parent. So finding the picture of my son from so long ago, just moved way down to where you take the picture off the wall pretty much. But that was really cool. It was nice to see him, and I never just stayed at the school. And it was a brilliant effort on everybody's part. So, Chair, I'm counting on you to say your time's up, because I'm just going to keep going here. I attended the BCSTA AGM, as many of us did. And
Given some latitude here this evening since Trustee Horton started it.
It was my first occasion to hear Lieutenant Governor Stephen Point, and that was unforgettable. That's going to live in my heart forever. What a speaker, and what a human being, just an amazing individual. The plenary speech was made by Nevin Adams, who was restoring the great movie Smoke Signals that I saw a long time ago. What a great speaker he is. Two wonderful people who have many trials and triumphs in a shining way. And congratulations to Michael McAvoy, who was elected as president of the AGM. The disposition of motions is available from me, or it's on the BCSTA website soon. I've been up to the Cowichan School District board meeting on 3 occasions. It's always really interesting, and I was there for the recent restoration budget vote kicked off. And I'm doing informal liaison with members of the Victoria City Council with a focus on transparency and accountability of citizens. Thank you, Chuck, for your
Having two, we started off with one Q&A, and Fred, it was so popular, we ended up with 2 opportunities, one at the beginning and one at the end of the meeting. And so I brought it forward because I don't believe that the standing committees actually replace public board meetings. I really believe that the more opportunity we have, the better. So, I still stand by that, and I was disappointed that it was defeated. I just want to follow up on a couple of things that Trustee McNally brought up about the BCSTA AGM. I was part of the Aboriginal Education Committee, and really took us almost 3 years to actually work on the AGM and the agenda, and so it was so awesome to actually see it actually come to fruition and to be able to see Lieutenant Governor speak and Evan Adams, and really made me realize how important my role is at the school, and the importance of having Aboriginal participation at every level of the school system as well as within our government system. So I was just, so honored to be part of the delegation as well. In terms of some of the stuff that I participated in this last month, the James Bay Community School, the art show, what incredible art. It was just amazing to go and see all of the various art pieces that the kids actually did duplicates of, and they kept one and were able to sell one piece that was just incredible. Mackenzie Elementary, I ended up actually attending 3 different events there, and the first one I attended the musical, the Back to the Future, and that was just an amazing musical performance where all of the students participated in all of the classrooms, and that was on April 26th, and it was just an incredible, it brought tears to my eyes just to see all of the different rates from 1912 right up to the current. And then I attended the pancake breakfast, and by the time that I attended the pancake breakfast, I had actually quite a few public parents come up to me and say, "Oh, I saw you here a couple of weeks ago, and you're here again. It's not even election time." So obviously, being out in the public is really, people are really appreciating it. And then I attended the assembly, and that was pretty incredible as well. So thank you to the school and at Mackenzie Elementary, the staff, for doing such an incredible job in making sure that every student was involved in that celebration. So thank you.
Given suggestions of brevity and all of that, but it becomes difficult, and I too will be responding to your presentation. Thank you for being here this evening, Mr. Travis. But I'm going to report first on the activities that I participated in on behalf of the board, and I'll try and just sort of glance over some of them. On Tuesday, April the 24th, I attended a very special meeting in Vancouver. The meeting was Mary Ellen Turkel-Levon's Special Needs Committee. I was honored to be an invited guest. There was good discussion, good connections with members of this group, and I'm hopeful to be able to continue to attend these meetings and work with others towards finding solutions and finding strong advocates to support our students. On the 25th of April, Trustee Horsman and I attended the Reynolds Grad Transition Portfolio at Reynolds Senior Secondary, and those students, they made their presentations in the gym, the dance studio, band, and art rooms. Anywhere you went in that school, it was full of students with their presentation. It was an awesome, wonderful display. And as we had arrived early, it was gave us the opportunity to actually speak to, but not only speak to, but to listen directly to the students whose presentations were there. So that was very, very special. I continue to attend meetings at Oakbay High with our build design team, including our own trustee McAvoy, as we work towards getting out to tender and groundbreaking. This team includes the mayor and 2 councillors from Oakbay, as well as our principal, Dave Thompson, and vice principal, and our technical advisors. Those are ongoing and will continue on a regular basis until we get shovel in the ground, as they say. On May the 11th, 2012, Trustee Ferris, Trustee Lori Kamuga, Superintendent Gateman, and I also attended the celebration at Mackenzie Elementary. And we watched as each grade placed items in a time capsule to be opened in a number of years. And I have to admit, I too cried. And Edith had to pat my hand. She said, I wish I brought tissues, but I didn't think I needed them. But when they were singing It's a Wonderful World, and these children are the children of the celebrations for me, and it has to be true for all of us. This is the reason, and it reinforces why we are at this table and continue to try and do our very best for all of our students. Whether we agree on the ways we do it all the time or not, we're all here for the best of reasons, and that's for the kids. So that was it was very moving. But I won't speak to it anymore because everybody else has, and they've all been very good stories. On the 16th of May, the superintendent and I had the extreme pleasure of attending Colquitt's Middle School to honor Colquitt's Parents Ambassador Program, which was initiated by John Bird, our president of BCPAC. One parent, Jeanne Brennan, was also awarded the first ever Parent Ambassador of the Year. For her work on behalf of the parents, I tell you, it was really interesting to watch. I knew who was getting the award. She didn't know I knew. So it was really interesting watching her as John started to lay out, what this person had done, and as it gradually dawned on her that, oh, gee, that might be me. It's kind of fun. But it was a wonderful evening over a wonderful dinner celebrating the parents and staff working together for the betterment of their students. A great thing to see. We had a couple of attending principals from other schools who were very impressed and taken, and I would be surprised to see this program initiated in other schools. A little bit of business here at the office administratively. As most of you know, our longtime Secretary-Treasurer, George Gamble, has decided to leave his position in the district. We're certainly going to miss George, and he will still be with us in an advisory capacity until mid to late June, as our superintendent takes over the reins. But as a result of his leaving, it has been decided by the trustees as an administrative staffing strategy that John Gateman take on the dual role of superintendent and secretary-treasurer for an interim period of time. This will allow the district, through John, to gauge and assess our administrative structure with reports to the board as often as the board requires them or requests them, but with full presentation in September. Also, as a result of this decision, Associate Superintendent Sherry Bell will take on the title of Deputy Superintendent as she comes to take on some of John's superintendent duties. It's important to note that neither of these initiatives have any cost to the district, but the title for Sherry is directly in respect to the added duty that she'll be taking on. So thanks, Sherry, for doing that for us. Thanks, John, for you're going to work on yourself. Let us know the secret. Now today I had a really exciting lunch, and I really wish all of the board would have the opportunity to be there. I had lunch with Roy Takumi, who's a Democrat House of Representatives in Hawaii. He's our equivalent of Minister of Education. And as well, with him was Jason Bradshaw, who's the Director of the Committee on Political Education for the AFL-CIO in Hawaii. I'm declaring that I received a pound of Kona coffee. I don't drink coffee very much, so I might bring it in and share it here in the staff room. It smells really good. I also got a very nice pin from Hawaii Department of Education and a coin, so you're welcome to look at them afterwards. But what was interesting was, while there's definitely differences in how things happen down there, we are dealing with very similar issues. We met for 2 hours over a lovely luncheon. I could have gone all afternoon, and I know if all of you had been there, we certainly would have. So I'm hoping to keep in touch. We've exchanged business cards and contact information, and kind of looking for somebody who's going to end up in Hawaii. But it was very helpful and very, it was good. It's like it's not just Canada. This is a global issue with what's going on, education and making sure that our students get what they need in times of economic restraint and so on and so forth. Having said that, I'll just cut that at that point. Now, this is where I'm going to take the opportunity to address Mr. Travis's presentation, which was well thought out and a very good story, and I agree with quite a bit. But I'm taking this opportunity to refresh and remind everyone that's here of our processes to engage our educational partners and members of the public. Now, Trustee Horsman spoke to it a bit, and as did Trustee Knorr. Our district has 2 standing committees, our educational policy and operations policy and planning. This is not usual in all districts. As Trustee Horsman has said, there's no time limits on presentations. We actually had, at our operations meeting last week, a member of the public who's here this evening. We had a 5-minute presentation and we engaged in a 35-minute discussion. And that was just on one issue. Well, 2 issues, but kind of rolled into one. And it was a good discussion, and we planned what we were going to do with the issues. These standing committees are exactly the reason why we have them, because they're interactive with the trustees, and where we encourage people who wish to bring their issues, concerns, or suggestions forward to the board to do so first in this forum. When you call into the office or staff, are more than happy to try and help you out if you're not quite sure what the process is. Say you'd like to make a presentation to the board, they would help you out with saying, is it just a presentation or do you want some discussion? Maybe you want to go through this process. So our staff are more than happy to help in directing the public to how our processes work. Having these standing committees allows for 2-way discussion and also has an opportunity for trustees to consider any request they wish to pursue via motion to the regular board meeting. We do work under Robert's Rules of Orders, which require business meetings to be held in certain ways. Having said that, we usually require notices of motions to be presented prior to our meetings and that will come through either of the standing committees. The motion, actually, which is the focus of our discussion this evening, was defeated at the committee stage. I was actually surprised not to see it back on the agenda because it can come back, even though it's defeated at the committee level, because that's just a committee. It can come to the full board for further discussion. So, hint, that could come back. And that's the way our business, the way that it works, and our opportunity to think about things and change our minds. Have that opportunity to digest, look, and research things, and say, geez, I wouldn't mind,
rethinking or rediscussing that item at the board meeting or back through the committee meeting once again. While our board meetings our regular board meetings are business meetings, we continue to hear presentations, and oftentimes our trustees, as Trustee Grossman did today, will use their trustee report time to engage back or to respond back to the presenter. It's definitely not a two-way street, and he said that there's a response mechanism. Another thing that's very unique around this province is that we actually have our stakeholders that sit at this table. If you notice, we have mics at the two end tables. We have Brad Hall, who is president of 947, and at the other table across the way, we have John Bird, who is the president of Victoria Confederation of Parents Advisory Council. Usually we have our GBTA representative. We have our other PP rep. We have our Allied Specialist Associations rep. And they are able to participate at this table and enter into the discussion. And I don't know another board that actually offers that opportunity. So, we take it very seriously that we have every opportunity to engage the public. For our budget submissions this year, or how we get our budget, we added another layer where we normally we start in September with information coming through from all of our stakeholder groups, and later on in the group, then we have presentations, verbal. We actually ask again for written submissions, so those people who may not have been able to make those meetings still have an opportunity to give input, and you'll see that later when we come to the needs budget motion. So every opportunity that we can think of, and we have to recognize that as members of the public, it's a two-way street, and we have a responsibility to look and ask questions how we can be better engaged with our levels of government. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, we're looking at live streaming our meeting over the website, so people who can't be here may want to do the dishes or other household chores watching what's going on at the clerk office. It can be amusing from time to time. Having said that, our board would be the last to say that we have the all and end all of public input. That, we talked it and nothing more can be done. If there's more, better ways that we can do that, this board is certainly, I think, open and willing to ensure that we get that public input. I heard that again. But we do, and we have made that effort, and as chair, I try very hard to make sure that we do that, and we never seem we cannot make things better by listening and potentially learning. So I apologize for the length of my report this evening. Having said that, that's what it is. So we'll now move on the screen here, but we have a glitch tonight, and we're not able to do so. So I think most of all of the motions are in packet, so you can follow along if you have one. If you don't, there's certainly a pile over on the table there. You're welcome to pick those up, and we'll have this fixed for our next meeting. So without further ado, I'm going to pass this over to Trustee Elko. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The minutes from our May 7th Education Policy Development Committee are on pages 11 to 14, and I'm also bringing forward a motion that the Board of Education of School District 61, Greater Victoria, delete policy and reg 2120.022, regulation 2121.019, policy 2123.010, regulation 2123.020, policy and regulation 2201, and policy and regulation 2221.1. These are included in the packet on pages 15 to 29, And each one of these is a policy and reg that governs positions that are no longer in our district. So these are positions that we used to have, but we no longer have anyone filling the position, nor do we have any intention of hiring anyone to fill the positions. So they are redundant, and we are deleting those policies and regulations. I'm putting that on the floor. I need my motion. Seconded. Okay. Okay. So it's second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Sorry, I'll hold your hands up for a second to make sure that we've got.
Against? Opposed? I believe that was unanimous. Yeah. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Alpha. I'd now like to turn this over to our Operations Policy and Planning Committee Chair, Trustee Leonard.
Good evening. We've got a few motions from the Ops meeting the other night. Minutes are before you on page 30 to 34, but most of the business came through the motions that are before us this evening. The first motion is that the Board of Education of School District 61 approve the submission of the needs budget letter and costing to the Minister of Education with the addition of Note 3. The budget costing reflects the input received from the consultative process with our educational partner group, School Planning Council, and the public. That was the addition to the original motion.
Point of order, Madam Chair. I think we said that Part 5, because it had been tabled and brought back to this table, it was supposed to be inserted as number 1.
It's a tabled motion, so it shouldn't even be on the agenda tonight. It's been tabled for further.
It was tabled till this meeting.
It was tabled this meeting with additional information. There is no additional information accompanying it, so as chair, it's tabled further.
That's appropriate. Thank you. So we're back to...
the motion I just put on the floor.
Trustee Miller.
Thank you. At our ops meeting, when we were reviewing this, we had some comments about the chart that identifies approximately $48 million. And I took the liberty to show the chart to a number of lay people. And I was given feedback that the items that we have identified and costed it's difficult to understand what it looks like in the classroom, what our rationale is for this. And so I've drafted an additional column that could be added. And so I'd like to make a motion that this be referred back to committee for consideration of an additional column that would make it more readable to our state partner groups and to the public in particular.
Okay. Thank you. Just a question then, you want this to go to ops in June? Because the question I'm asking is, I think if this was to pass, the desire to getting it in is to reflect to June 30th.
There would be time.
I'm thinking it's a tight time in case there's further amendments and hopefully.
Is that a motion table?
No, she wants to refer it to operations and, certainly.
So we can't debate it and only decide when we refer.
I'll give you a copy of it. I'm sorry.
Okay, so are there further speakers to the motion to refer? Trustee Horton?
Just that we'll have to make sure that we do all of the add-ons
Yes.
so that it does meet the timeline. And it should be doable.
Thank you.
Trustee Lauren? Anyways.
I'm just wondering, where are we?
We're on page 38, 30, it actually
Page
starts
2.
on page 35. Well, the police budget
Oh,
shop is.
Yeah, but I think
But I'm wondering, where is that on the agenda?
It's the first motion under operations, Trustee Lauren Kunda. Okay?
It doesn't have a number, that's why I was.
It's Roman numerals. Trustee McNally.
So, first up, question regarding this referral. Will that give us an opportunity to discuss the letter on page 36 as well? I have some concerns.
Yes, because it's all packaged. And it could well change the letter. The superintendent, secretary treasurer would like to make a comment. Are there any further questions?
As chair of office, I would just like to say that if anybody else that has any more information to do with this, send it forward early so we have time to look at it and don't bring it to off unless we've seen it before. Please.
Thank you. That's a very good suggestion because, as I say, we want to have this in and we're going to submit it at all before or by at the very latest June 30th. Trustee Norris?
Yes, thank you. I think this could possibly, I look for your input. This was just a draft of some ideas, but I was hoping perhaps the budget committee could tie in some timelines, because at some points in the 1990s or up to 2001, some of these items that we've costed were in place, and I think the public and partner groups would appreciate if we can put some dates with some of those items. Not previous costs, just a date of when it was in place in the system. So the
Trustee Leonard, in response?
My response is that we questioned ops whether this had anything to do with previous cuts. We were told no, it came from public input. It's basically a wish list of what they want the system to look like. It's not based on what was cut. It's not based on things we've ever had in the district before. And so I think that's an unreasonable request to make it staff, because the needs budget that we have before ops has nothing to do with previous cuts or staffing. And I'm sorry that Trustee Howard didn't hear any of that.
I would just add to that. That point is well taken. And one thing to consider, too, is when we're looking at what was in place a number of years ago, you have to look at the factors that was potentially pre-school closure, when we had higher enrollment. There's a number of factors that would have affected those numbers as well, which would take us into a much more in-depth report.
So I apologize. I thought that it was a combination of partner input and some formulas related to a previous period of time. So I apologize for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on the motion to refer?
Can I just say that on a quick run, we look at the list, I think Trustee Leonard is right. I can't remember, unless it was the class size from before, but even then, I don't remember that was in district-wide. So I think these items don't actually have a place in previous budget.
Okay, so seeing no further questions, I'll call, or seeing no further hands for debate or for questions, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of referral back to the June operations meeting, please raise your hand. Anyone in opposition? No, I thought it was unanimous, and it is. Thank you. Trustee Leonard.
The next motion that's before us is a two-part motion, and like in the education policy where we're redoing some of the updating some of the board policy and regulations. This one is an actual bylaw, so it does require 3 readings to enact the change. The motion needs to be carried unanimously. And the second part of the motion is just taking off one last sentence in the board administration relationship bylaw. So we do need three readings for the first part. Otherwise, there'll be a full vote for the third reading. We all want to carry on.
Trustee McNally.
So here's the unbelievable grammar component. I did talk to Vicki just briefly about this, and I've noticed that our motions are worded in different ways, and it would be nice to have, I'm not going to believe this, to have the tense be consistent all the way through. So the tense to be used in motions is called the present subjunctive, and really what it is it follows the statement of I wish that. So it would be, I wish that you would agree. So this one should be agree, and just think about that when our motions are worded and written up. I'm in favor of the motion.
Is there any further questions or? Seeing none, I'll call the question on the 3 readings of bylaw 9221 board administration relationships. The motion to be carried unanimously. All those in favor? Okay, that is unanimous. So we have 3 readings done tonight. Thank you. Trustee Leonard.
And again, the second part to follow through for that is on your packet on page 39 it starts, and stopping that is just to take off the bottom of page 41 the one last sentence on there, which is no longer applicable. We don't have an executive council, and it's just to remove that one sentence. So the motion before you is that the bylaw 9221 board administration relationships is reviewed and amended. We read it first, second, and third time and adopted this May 22nd.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Passed unanimously. Motion is carried.
Next motion, that the Board of Education and School District 61 delete policy 2123.042, supervisor of accounting, and 2123.043, supervisor of personnel and payroll. As the positions no longer exist.
Trustee McNally.
Just to follow up on the recommended motions, I know that when I used to sit in the gallery and watch motions happen, I didn't understand particularly how it all worked. And I guess a recap that recommended motions means we've already discussed this in standing committee minutes, so you've seen all of the amounts of these motions and it's discussed them thoroughly, correct?
It doesn't preclude you at all from raising any new points of discussion. That's the...
No, Chair, that wasn't really my point. My point was that it looks like we're whipping through these and really we're not, because we got
we were just letting the public know. Okay, yeah, good. It wasn't a question for me. It was a clarification for the audience. Thank you.
Again, if I can just provide some context too, we've asked our administration to bring these forward. They are mostly housekeeping issues, just to bring our policy and regs up to the year 2012. Some of them haven't been updated or changed with positions that have been deleted over the past 20 years. So we're just doing most of them are housekeeping. We have them coming forward at every meeting now.
Thank you. Moving on. Trustee Leonard? We're on number 3. We're on B3 is my recollection. Okay. So, is there seeing no further questions? Or raised hands? I'll call the question. All those in favor? That was unanimous. Thank you. Trustee Leonard.
Next motion, that the Board of Education of School District 61 agree to give all three readings of capital bylaw number 126-412, being the bylaw for the maximum expenditure of $2,840,628 for capital portion of the annual facility grant allocation. Again, this portion of the second motion needs to be unanimous. This is something that comes to us every year. Through the ministry, they separate our capital from our operational grants, and this time every year we are asked to approve the bylaw. It's the same amount as last year from our discussion of operations, and so we'll put that before the board.
Thank you. Trustee Norton.
Thank you. So this is money that's going to be spent on different projects. So I presume, since it's such a specific amount, that the projects are all established at this point.
To the Secretary Treasurer.
What you look, through the chair, what you're looking at is the amount of money the problem gives to us.
So we are yet to determine the use of this money.
I'm going to pass it over to the Director of Facilities. I'm not sure if you have a complete list of them yet.
Through you, Madam Chair. There is a list. The way it normally works is we're working on the projects and identifying and doing the study work in the previous year to complete the work during the summer. So the money that you are approving tonight will be spent primarily over the summer. In actual fact, we have until March 31st of next year to spend all that money. But again, the only time that we have available to carry out the major projects such as boiler replacement, mechanical upgrades is during the summer months when schools are closed. So the short answer is yes, we have a list.
May we?
Mr. Holly, bring a list, I believe, to the next operations meeting. So we'll all be up to speed on what's going on in the district. So hopefully that's a
Thank you.
clarification. You're welcome. Are there any further questions? This sounds weird. Are there any further questions? Now I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Okay. No opposed, so that was passed unanimously, which is what's required.
And the second part of the motion is just to say it sort of again. We're going to do it first, second, and third time, and we have to vote on this portion as well.
Seeing no hands up for question or debate, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. That was unanimous.
Thank you. And the last item there has been tabled, so that's the end of my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Trustee Leonard. We'll now move to Section D, District Leadership Team Report.
Just a point of order, Madam Chair. So that tabling was for the next board meeting, but maybe since new information is going to be tabled to discuss item 5, it should go to the ops meeting instead, so that we could have.
It's not, we didn't say when it was going to be tabled. We said when it was tabled till there was new information.
So whenever that information gets to us, we'll bring it.
And we'll figure out what meeting it's going to be.
Because the original motion to table asked that it go to the board meeting, and I'm just saying.
So at the board meeting with new information, and new information was not forthcoming.
No, but ideally it should come to us if the new information could be received.
Yeah, right.
All right, so now we're moving on to Section D, and I'd like to turn it over to Superintendent, Secretary, Treasurer for his report. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just able now to give you the full vote third reading of the 2012-2013 annual budget bylaw. In order to complete our budget process, a third reading of the 2012-2013 annual budget bylaw is required. It occurred on April the 16th, and I will just read out for trustees Ferris, Horstman, Leonard, McAvoy, and Worthington. Against, trustees trustees Alpha and Norm, and abstentions trustees Norm, Kahuna, and McNally.
Thank you. We'll now move on to reports from trustee representatives, and trustee McNally, I had your name down for this.